Hey everybody, this is CoinWeek Editor Charles Morgan. Happy April 1st. April Fool's Day. Well, no fooling. Decided to spend a few minutes with you guys today trying to answer questions that you might have. You'll see in the live chat screen there's our menu on your screen. You have the opportunity of typing. We can talk generally about certain coins. You know, I'm not an encyclopedia, won't have every bit of information about every coin under the sun, so let's not try to ask trivia questions. But anyway, I've been talking to a lot of dealers. Everybody is doing the best they can, trying to transition to an online business model. The big problem I see right now is a lot of dealers are unsure about how they're going to sell coins in this new reality. And we have not seen a decline in coin prices after two major auctions. Now, these auctions could be outliers. A lot of bids were put in to the Pogue sale and also Legend Rare Coin Auctions Regency 37 sale. And both of those auctions had great coins in them. So we did see a little bit of a softness in the high-end multi-million-dollar coins or coins worth over a couple $100,000. But if you saw your stocks decline by 30%, you probably feel a little bit less rich. However, I doubt, and this isn't to be controversial, but I doubt if you're actually a very rich person at this point, have the ability to buy coins like that you're as affected by the current economic situation as somebody who has a job that requires them to be furloughed or put on leave or laid off. So we will see how that handles. I still think there is a pent-up demand for certain types of coins, especially in what I think the ideal pocket for a healthy industry, and that's going to be coins at about $150 to $2,000 or $3,000. So it looks like we have about 10 concurrent viewers. Anybody who hasn't watched our stream, so welcome. If you are a longtime CoinWeek fan, thank you for your support. We have been making a real effort to be available and online on a regular basis while this is going on to give you something else to think about. So let me start looking at the comments here. How do I do my hobby if all the coin shops are closed? It's become very difficult lately. That's a great question. So I think for starters, let's look at the hobby and its core components. And many of the components do not require you to buy coins every day or go to a coin shop every day. The first component, I think, is knowledge. So knowledge requires reading. If you aren't going anywhere and that amount of time is freed up, you can learn quite a bit by reading. And I would recommend either reading what's available for free online or buying books about coins. I'll tell you a little something I've been doing. You see this mess of papers right here. I've been trying to clear out a little bit of my inventory of periodicals and things that I don't need to hold on to forever. And what I typically do is I take pages out of them that I find have useful information, that things I want to like hold on to or remember or put in my notes. For instance, this page here from the Numismatist from 1998, folks, talks about the winners of various A&A awards. And when you run a publication, it's kind of important to know who did what and when and everything and why they received the accolades they got. So for our CoinWeek files, I just go through and I'm like, okay, well, Michael Stantorini, what did he do in 1998? And then so I put that data in there, and once I'm done with the pages, I throw them out. There's another great article here that I pulled, and it discusses the Susan B. Anthony dollar. And also, when you're a writer, it's interesting to see the approaches people take when they're writing. So this article really is less about the coin, which I know quite a bit about, and more about things about Susan B. Anthony as a person. And so what I would say is, you can go get magazines, books, and like I said, these are all 1998 numismatists I have here on my desk because that's what I'm looking through. And spend some time, spend some time learning. Also, play with your coins. Here's a 3-cent nickel. I got this coin in 1989 when I was a kid. I held on to it, and I still play with it sometimes. So you can always take time and enjoy your coins. Enjoy what you have. Think about what you have. Read the Red Book. Read anything. As far as how do you buy coins, well, it turns out that probably your coin dealer, your coin shop that you like to go to, needs to sell coins and needs to find a way to do it. So one way to do it is to reach out to them and say, hey, I know you can't be open, but I'd like to know if you have any of this and see if you guys can work out an arrangement where you can get the coin sent to you, maybe on an approval basis and so on. So that's how I would do it. There's also auctions, eBay, or whatnot. I think you're pretty much, you have an opportunity to buy coins and develop new relationships and learn. So that's for you, Zach, the TSM major. Hi, Cheapskate Coins. Thanks for saying hi. Hi, Choda. Thank you for tuning in. So Cal Freelance asks, does the U.S. Mint enforce a maximum markup allowed on bullion they sell to resellers? I'm assuming no. Things might be changing with the Mint. I think when they sold that surplus stock of Silver Eagles, from everything I understood, that was a first. David Ryder seems to be more adventurous with the way the Mint interacts with the industry. So we may be seeing some changes there. But one of the complaints I had, or well, not really a complaint, but an observation I had and I brought to the attention of the Mint at the various Mint forums that I attended, was that I believe that the Mint needs to have a true wholesale program, and they really didn't. Why do I think that Mint should have a true wholesale program, and what safeguards do I think should be in place so that collectors aren't shut out of major programs? Well, for limited edition items, things like special sets with low mintages, things like the 2019 S Reverse Proof, I believe that the Mint should have a subscription service that they put in place each year, limited to collectors, and allow the collectors the first right of basically approval, or to basically give you a chance to say, when a program is announced, do you want it, yes or no? And the subscribers get first picked. And once that is done, the Mint sets its mintages and goes into production, and there's some left over for the general public, but basically people who subscribe, like if you wanted to subscribe, then you would have the first shot at those limited programs. On the wholesale side, for things that aren't necessarily limited, things like commemorative coin programs, bullion coin programs, things like that, I believe that the Mint should have a true wholesale. And that true wholesale should be significantly marked down so that dealers can buy Mint products and sell them in their stores for retail prices. An example of this would be the silver proof sets. So the Mint sells a silver proof set for a certain price, but if they were able to sell the silver proof sets in quantity to coin dealers, then you would know each year when a proof set comes out that you don't have to buy it from the Mint and wait for it to come in the mail. You can go to your dealer and you could pick the one you want. They would have it, and this would help grow the viability of brick and mortar coin shops. Brick and mortar coin shops do not do well selling Mint products because they're competing against the Mint's online website. And this way there would be parity. You would be buying it for more or less the same price, and then dealers would have stock, and I think that that's a more healthy way of growing a market. So I made this observation several times to the Mint and explained why I think it's imperative. Because really, if you think about it, what happens to a coin shop is that they are left basically holding the bag when there's a Mint program that's oversold and people want to sell it. So and Harvey Stack, who we've had on several times, has talked to me about it, said that, they had one of the most prestigious stores in New York. This woman comes in, and she had purchased, you know, $5,000-$10,000 worth of mint commemorative coin products in the 1980s, and led to believe that they were going to be great investments. And she bought it to help fund her, you know, kids' college education and all this. And so she comes in, and he's like, man, I looked all over to try to figure a way to make, you know, to give her a real offer, and knowing that I was just going to flip the thing and not even make $50 off of it. So he offers her a couple thousand, $2,000, and she's like, you know, you're a crook, you know, you're trying to rip me off and all this stuff, and storms out the door, you know. So that's basically the situation I think that the mint left the retail coin industry in, by overproducing product and having no viable secondary market strategy, no way of taking the coins off the market, you know, buying the surplus from dealers at a price over spot, so that they could get out from under the weight of this glut, this glut of product that they put out in the market. So anyway, that's to answer your question, SoCal Freelance. I know this is very long-winded, but I think that the mint should come up with a viable wholesale market, and I am not quite sure under the current administration how consistent they're going to be with enforcing their markup. I do know that major retailers are selling bullion at the highest spread I've ever seen on the buy-sell side. You know, they may be selling silver at like $1,700 in volume for a certain amount, and then buying it at $1,100 because they really don't know what the market's going to be for this. Tomorrow morning, I have a Paul Hug from Kitco, senior executive at Kitco, is going to join me. We're going to do an interview, and we're going to talk about precious metals. So we'll have an expert insight into what exactly is going on in this market. We'll have that for you as soon as I can get that audio edited. Hawkeye, video you just made of the brass coins. I have 10 to 15 of them. Wasn't aware they were worth anything. They have the 3D look. Can you give me any more information on them? What video, Hawkeye? You need to give me more specifics. Are you talking about with the brass coins? I'm not 100% sure I understand what you're saying. I'm lucky on that end, being friends with Rick Snow. He still sells to me even though his shop is closed. Okay, yeah, check out Cheapskate's video interview with Rick Snow. Rick Snow's a great guy, by the way. He's also very funny. I've had dinner with him many times, and he's a really cool guy. Also, I think his shop's in Tucson. I used to live near that when I was in the Army. I was stationed at Fort Huachuca. We go to Tucson all the time, but I have no idea where Rick's shop was at the time. And I was active buying coins when I was at Fort Huachuca. So Jonas says CoinWeek Supply is going well. Well, thanks for mentioning CoinWeek Supplies. We are doing okay. I would like to see us grow CoinWeek Supplies into a major revenue stream for CoinWeek. So anything you buy from CoinWeek Supplies helps us out tremendously. We are completely advertiser supported. We have a small staff, and if we have any hopes of growing that, we're going to need to make significantly more money than the market will bear. So the market has consolidated in recent years. So there are fewer big companies out there. So if you buy a loop or some coin tubes or some safe flips or books or anything, it all helps us out tremendously, and we appreciate it. Let's see. Is there a Stamp Week website coming? I hope so. We'll see. We own the domain for Stamp Week, and we also have Comic Week, and we have Card Week. And our initial plan was to launch these sites, but they have to be revenue supported. Otherwise, it's like we're basically using the same staff to do 3 or 4 things. Tucson and Grant Road. Yeah. Does Bookman still exist in Tucson? I don't know. Cheapskate Coins. There's one of my favorite used bookstore in the country is Bookman's. They used to have everything. Let's see. Let me pull out anything I got here. Here's a cool coin. I don't know if you've ever seen this, and we have done this coin on some CoinWeek graphics. This is my Super Toner 1979 Susan B. Anthony. It's kind of hard to get that full impact of that toning in this web camera. But the crazy thing about this coin is most of the Tone Susan B. Anthony's I've ever seen. Oh, the coins are. Most of the Tone Susan B. Anthony's I've ever seen have been the 79Ps. And I had a guy at my local coin club who had a box of these. And he goes, hey, you want to buy some Tone Susan B. Anthony coins? Now, this was like a legit numismatist. This wasn't like some guy who was like cooking these up. And I'm like, yeah, sure. And I paid $5 each for them, which, is what it is. But anyway, I've got several of them graded, and this one came back 65. And I just love it. I should have gotten a true view of it. Oh, there you go. You can kind of see it there in the sunlight. Really phenomenal. I think these coins kind of only look good when they're toned, to be honest. All right. Excuse me. Let's see. I often wish the Mint had a subservice for smaller denominations, pennies, nickels. You think they should open up smaller coins on a subservice? Are you talking about like getting the coins in like rolls and bags and things like that, or do you mean the Mint sending you a penny or a nickel? The Mint used to actually send people rolls of coins or individual coins until there became too many collectors for them to deal with it. Now it's like basically sets. But the problem I have with Mint sets and all that is that the finish and the quality of the coins is different than what you find in circulation. And I think that has added some confusion in recent years when the grading services are essentially grading Mint set coins like 68s and 69s when they're different finish. And so I like pulling coins from circulation. The only time that's really benefited, I think, the Mint sets is when I was collecting Eisenhower dollars, Kennedy half dollars from the 70s and early 80s, or even the Susan B. Anthony dollars, and pretty much the only way you could get them in any consistent quality would be in Mint sets. And you would think that, for something like a 74, 75, or which would be the bicentennial year Mint sets, that these are the best quality coins that existed. But then when you actually find an original bag and you go through it and you realize just the variable nature of the quality of these coins, and you get some really fresh dyes striking coins, and they can be super lustrous and look a lot better than any Mint set coin I've ever seen. So it's almost as if I think the Mint set coins tended to be more consistent. You didn't get all the really terrible looking coins, but at the same time, you didn't get the best looking coins either. So that's something that I think that if you're looking for the Mint to send you coins, I'd hope they would send you coins from circulation and not just their sort of satiny finish made for collectors Mint set coins. Let's see. 2 Bookmans here, but they're closed right now. Yeah, I got my 1800s Encyclopedia World coins for $15. I'm telling you, man, like the only way when I was in the Army, the thing that kept me sane was buying books from Bookmans. In fact, actually, the only thing I regret with Bookmans is I sold them my entire Dreamcast collection. I had probably about 140 games because I was doing video game journalism at the time. And when the Dreamcast went belly up and because of the PlayStation 2, I was so fed up. So I went to Bookmans and I sold them all that stuff. I think I got like $600, which I probably poured into like philosophy books or whatever. But yeah, Bookmans is great. And if you're in Arizona and this is over, go to Bookmans. Check it out. Do you think the release of the Cherry Picker's Guide won't be delayed? As far as I know, no. I think Whitman Whitman runs a tight ship. I can tell you that. We worked with them on our 100 greatest modern world coins. So plug. I think this comes out, folks, April 20th. I think you can buy it. We got them early because they arrived at the warehouse about a month and a half ago. But yeah, I think they're not going to delay. The Red Book's coming out on time, and I don't think they're going to delay these books. A lot of books retail is done online, by the way. So, Amazon really has taken a huge percentage of that market. We'll tell you this, if you are interested, you may or may not be, we're going to order 100 Red books, the hardbound versions, and send them to our friend Jeff Garrett. Jeff Garrett is now the senior editor of the Red Book, and we're going to have Jeff sequentially sign these 100 books. We're going to make them available on CoinWeek supplies when the book comes out. So we're working on that back end right now. So if you're interested in a signed copy from Jeff and CoinWeek supplies, you can do so. Again, you can access our supply site on CoinWeek. It's in the nav bar. Let's see. Okay. Hi, Jonas. Yeah, if you know, Jonas is right. Our friend Wayne Herndon at Wizard helps us with CoinWeek supplies. So if anybody, you know, if it's something you needed to know, there you go. 3D medallion coin with the early presidents on there, solid brass, a 50-cent coin, size of a 50-cent coin. Are you talking about the arts medals that our friend Paul at NGC was marketing? I think they call them so-called half dollars. So-called dollars were the medals struck for various expositions and other topics. But these arts medallions were made, and they had different historical themes on them. That might be the video you're talking about, but I'm not sure. We do have a lot of videos. Tell us a story about one of your favorite coins in your collection. Okay, sure. Well, I'll tell you a crazy story, and I don't have the coin in my collection anymore, but it's a crazy story. So here you go. I decided that I wanted to do a paperclip trade and try to see what kind of coin I could end up with, just using my own talents of negotiation. So I started with a 1971D Eisenhower dollar friendly eagle variety, and this was a raw coin, and I sold it for about $50. And with that $50, I went on to Teletrade, which doesn't exist anymore, but it was a great auction site. Usually you could cherry pick some things. These were not the ultra high-end coins. It was basically stuff dealers couldn't sell through normal means, so they would put them on there. But occasionally there would be things that were really underappreciated. Well, I used to be a Russian linguist, and one of the coins that was for sale was a Russian coin, a ballet coin. It's 5 ounces of silver. And there was no mention of this in the listing. It was just basically the coin, and it was in a PCGS holder, I think, maybe NGC. No, yeah, PCGS holder. And the picture is a little bit deceptive. I mean, I guess if you didn't know what you're looking at, you would think it was a normal coin, just a 1 ounce or something. But I was reading it, and it was like, you know, clearly in Russian, it said 5 ounces of silver. So I put my bid on it, and I win the coin for about $40 or something like that with shipping, which is unbelievable since at the time silver was trading for roughly $30 an ounce. This was around 2010, 2011. So the coin comes in. Now I have this like $200 basically silver coin that I paid 40 some dollars. My 1971D Friendly Eagle Ike dollar has now turned into this thing. So I go to my local coin shop, and they have on hand a 1798 S2 large cent and AccuGrade holder. And trust me when I say this, you do not want to be stuck with anything in an AccuGrade holder. And I made this clear to them that, you know, I don't believe that the coin's an XF40. I felt it had some environmental, like some, you know, it was a little too porous. So I said, but I'll trade you this Russian coin for it. And they went for it. And so now I have the 1798 S2. And what I thought it was probably a fine, not an extra fine. So I submit the coin to get graded, and it comes back just as I thought, as a fine. And no, I mean a very fine. Came back a very fine. So it was downgraded a whole step. But now I have a very fine 1798 S2. and a major graded holder. And so I then go back to a different coin shop in my local area, and I trade that coin for a $5 gold coin, an MS63. It was like a common day. It's like a 1903 5 lib in gold. And so I turned that 1971D $8 that I sold for $50 that I pulled I cherry picked off an eBay sale. I think I paid $4 or $5 with shipping, and I turned that into this $5 Liberty gold coin. And I would say that that's my favorite coin story. I could have kept going, but at a certain point, like your knowledge base of what you have, your advantage, I think at the lower end it's easier to capitalize on. But once you start getting into better and better coins, you're dealing with like more sophisticated dealers. And so at a certain point, I don't know if I could have turned that 5 lib into something really amazing, but still going from a couple bucks to that coin in less than like 3 months of like flipping stuff around, it's pretty cool. Let's see. What would I say the fastest growing sector of the hobby is? So the first thing is like, it's easy to grow things that are like not as developed as things that are mature, right? So, the classic coin market's fairly mature and robust. World paper money is smaller, therefore the growth in that market would be more obviously felt. I think if I was to put a crystal ball out and tell you what the future of the hobby is, I would look at the 20th century. And I would say that the 20th century is going to be where most of the action is. And here's why. The numismatic hobby, as we really know it and understand it, grew out of people's interest in 18th century coins. When the large cent and the half cent went away, there was a great coin boom in America. People were collecting large cents primarily. And there were favored dealers in Philadelphia who had access to the Mint's redemption office. And what the Mint was doing is they were accepting large cents and half cents. They were people turning them in. And they were getting the new small cents in exchange. The small cents at the time being the Flying Eagle design of 1857. And so these insider dealers were basically pulling coins from circulation, and these coins go all the way back to the very beginning of the Mint. And so this is how we end up with a lot of these good and very good 1798 cents and 1794 cents or whatever. The 1794 cent, essentially because it was more available than the 93, was the standard bearer. When Sheldon builds out the Sheldon scale, he bases it on the 1794 cent. And so for the longest time, the availability of these coins was sufficient for the size of the hobby. Now we blew past that in the 20th century to the point where you have to be fairly affluent to be able to afford any 1794 cent, much less a 1793, or to even build a collection of early dates. I think you can still do middle dates and late dates without being rich, but essentially the size of the hobby grew to the point where 18th century coins became very elusive. 19th century coins, for better or for worse, I think have a general problem of being either too sophisticated for most people. You think about all the Overton dates and the bust series. You think about all the various changes that were done to the seated type, or just too boring. And I'm thinking about like things like shield nickels, 2-cent pieces, trimes, things like this. So what happens is Teddy Roosevelt, with this pet crime, reimagines American coinage in the first half of the 20th century. You have beautiful dimes, beautiful nickels, you have beautiful quarters, you have beautiful half dollars, you have beautiful gold coins. And I think that when looking forward, there's going to be more of a demand for 20th century coins because they're more affordable, they're more attractive, and the people who will be collecting these will have a closer connection through their own personal experience to this period than they will with the 18th century. The 18th century was largely driven by people's interest in the Civil War, people's interest in the Old West, as two primary lubricators. But the 20th century, I think people are going to think about the airplane, the telephone, the movies, talking pictures, silent films. You're going to be thinking of all these innovations, major innovations and figures and events that touch your life. People are going to be thinking about World War II, World War I. People are going to be thinking about the Vietnam War. People are going to be thinking about different presidents that are iconic, different musical acts. All this stuff is going to be very relevant. So I think the fastest growing sector going forward is going to be 20th century U.S. coins, especially higher end coins, high appeal coins, things that are super PQ. And you don't have to take my word for it. You can look at the Sachs Bauer sale of D. Brent Pogue's collection and see how well those 20th century coins did. I still think you're going to have the major things like Morgan dollars are still going to be popular. But I would say U.S. coins from pretty much first decade of the 20th century through 1980s. And I think that's where the growth is going to be. All right, let's see. Let's see. If you ever talk to the mint director, please ask him to change dimes. That design needs to end. We just might. I do think that they need to redesign the coins. And, most collectors, if they had their druthers, they would see the American coins go back to female figures emblematic of liberty. However, I think the mint might be a little trigger shy about that, because I think any emblematic figure of liberty should be relevant to the current age. And we saw what happened when the mint tried to do that in 2017, and it was not a pretty sight. So, you can't have your myth and mysticism if you can't accept the fact that artists have different ideas and they're going to put these ideas into the art. So much easier just to take a guy out of history and put him on a coin than it is to have somebody's idea of liberty. In the UK, there's such a big market for circulating 50 pence, it's unreal. Are you talking about those Easter egg 50 pence coins that they're putting out in circulation in LAFTA? The Reagan years, the 80s, LOL. Well, the 80s are important. Think about all the cool stuff that happened in the 80s. And to me, you had the rebirth of the modern commemorative period. I still think that the 1984 Olympic game coins are cool. You have the Statue of Liberty coins after that. You had what I think the end of the really attractive Washington quarters before they went to spaghetti hair. You had the 1982 No P dime, which we'll have a coin profile for you tomorrow. And you had some cool stuff there. Chota collects World War II themed numismatic stuff. Yeah, I mean, if you think about that, I mean, you had the United States Mint making coins for various countries. You had a lot of paper money being made in the United States for various countries. It was a very important period. Think it'd be cool to do a redoing of old designs for a year per design. That's not a bad idea too. Sometimes when I hypothesize about what collectors would be interested in, I think it would be cool if the Mint had the ability to create collector's sets with various old denominations. You saw this with the first Spouse series where they had some of the old liberties. But I mean, how cool would it be to have a 2020 Mint set, which had a half cent, a cent, and all these denominations based on the classic designs? I think that'd be cool. How do you think the W quarter hunt will go with all that's going on? Well, Bill, I think it'll be even more difficult to find one. Think about this. We're living through a very interesting time, right? But if you think about collectibles, sometimes the things that become really scarce are the things that happen to be scarce because of what's going on. The Panic of 1893 is why the 1893 S is very scarce. Some of the San Francisco issues in the 1920s are scarce due to economic reasons. The mintages of certain coins can drastically be affected by the demand. And 2020, you may just see a lower mintage of a lot of coins because the coins aren't ordered. So you got to look at it both ways. If you want what's scarce, Well, sometimes public, the current events dictate the scarcity of things. We could see lower mintages on some collectibles, just because of that very issue. If you're a comic book fan, um, the last probably 3 or 4 weeks of releases of comic books probably going to be much scarcer uh, than they would have otherwise been. And so, if you're a collector and you're collecting things and you are speculating on their future value, something to take into account. Zach, is NGC or PCGS better? I'm going to give you an answer you don't want. they're both pretty much equivalent. Um, uh, they're professional graders at both companies that have worked for both companies, and these are opinions. So you're really, both of them are essentially, as far as I'm concerned, equivalent. And the market and the industry needs both of them, because you can't have a monopoly of opinion, because that creates weakness, I think, in the market. So there's your answer. They're roughly equivalent. And I think different companies have different areas that they've carved out for themselves that they're more sophisticated on. Obviously, PCGS isn't grading ancient coins, but NGC is. PCGS has made a real sort of a pioneers on photo imaging, but now NGC is catching up to that. But they're both great companies. We've seen them both do business behind the scenes. We are familiar with all the players of both companies, so they're both great companies. Let's see. Mint is changing their release schedule due to the shutdown. So will we see if we even get all the planned coins out this year or not? I don't know. I think that the major things are going to be coming out. The National Basketball Hall of Fame coin launch certainly isn't going as planned, but I think there will be a pretty good demand for that. As far as the things that weren't popular to begin with, I don't know. I mean, if a Boys Town coin or something like that was going to come out this year, I think we would have been in some real trouble as far as mintage. Let's see. I don't hear too much about the 2020 Silver Eagle with the V75 Privy Mark. Well, it'll come out and you'll hear about it. I'm not exactly sure what I feel about the Privy Mark thing. It'd be interesting, instead of the Mint having a one-size-fits-all kind of Privy Mark approach, if they had special Privy Marks for different releases. One of the things that I gripe about sometimes is that, when the Mint releases something at a coin show, that, people flock to get the same item they could get from the Mint store, but have it graded at the coin show, and therefore somehow, like, there's a numismatic differential between where it was released. Now, if there was a coin show Privy Mark on the coin, and you could only get that Privy Mark at the coin show, well, you have a different story altogether. So, again, I want to taper down my recommendations here. I think the Mint would do well to use some discretion when they use these Privy Marks, but to have a variety of Privy Marks to celebrate certain things. And to be honest with you, why don't you have a Privy Mark for the launch ceremony that only the VIPs get? Like, do coin collectors need to have access to everything for it to be cool? 100 years from now, when the head of some organization, his family goes to auction with a 2026 commemorative coin that was given to 50 people at a launch ceremony and has a rare Privy Mark, that's freaking cool. And I think that the Mint should look at the Privy Marks, use some discretion, but come up with ways to make contemporary numismatic objects have a long-term interest, viability, and historical importance. Canada issued some of the Romantic era of Canadian banknotes on coins as collector coins, and those were very popular with Canadian collectors. So popular, in fact, I was not able to get one. I'm sorry to hear about that, Bruce. The Royal Canadian Mint is very interesting in the fact that I think there's, outside of maybe the Mint of Poland, I don't think there's any major mint in the world that comes up with quite the amount of technological innovation. And they were very proud of that fact when I was at the World Mint Directors Conference in 2016. And I had a chance to talk to some of the leading officials at the Royal Canadian Mint. They were very proud of the fact that they lead the world in anti-counterfeiting technology, and as far as the types of technology they deploy to make their coins. My hat's off to the Canadians for having such a a state-of-the-art, forward-thinking, progressive mint. I do think that, again, all of the mints would benefit from taking the collector into consideration and not oversaturating their market with things that collectors can't hope to keep up with. The coin, if the mint is interested in developing something for the sesquicentennial, yeah, that's an interesting thing to bring up. I'll try to do that. Trade toilet paper for coins, yeah, maybe. Let's see. The maple leaves with the privy marks are okay, but there are too many now. Also, why do Canadian coins always seem to have issues with milking? I think the milking issues. I think it's kind of been isolated to the way the planchets are prepared, and also I think if you have coins that are pure silver, silver probably has that issue with the wash more so than some of the alloyed coins. All right, guys, I think we've been on a little while. I have my family sequestered downstairs in their bedrooms. They don't make noise since we're all working from home now. But I appreciate you guys hopping on. If you enjoyed this Q&A, stream of consciousness kind of thing, I'll try to do it again next week. I do have some more content for you, multimedia content planned this week. I promised, and I will deliver sort of a rundown of some of the classic commemorative coins that I think are the most interesting, especially in the current market. So we'll have that. And then next week, like I said, I'll have a podcast with Bill Eckberg on the sourcing of copper planchets and the quality of copper planchets for early date large cents and half cents. And then we'll have that Peter Hugg interview I teased earlier. So anyway, for the staff at CoinWeek, for Hubert, for Scott, and me, thank you very much for tuning in. Check out CoinWeek supplies, all that free time you have. Pick up a coin book or two, and I'll have more details about that Jeff Garrett's signed red book soon. All right, for everybody, take care and have a good day.